Good evening. Today is March 23rd, 2020. It is about 8 p.m. in the evening, and this is the Streets and Sidewalks Committee. To my left is Councilman Jeff Schilling, and to my right is Councilwoman Lynn Snee, and I am Bobby Phillips, the chair. We are here to talk about amending a codified ordinance with chapter number 717. And Mr. Titterington, I assume you're going to present.
Our current practice, our current chapter requires council approval every time there is some kind of a modified use of the public right-of-way. And because it's public right-of-way, we have to requirement to, if we don't have guidelines, either prohibit activities altogether or just allow everybody to do what maybe one or two has done in the past. We've always had a good set of guidelines in the, ordinances, but what we have received in the past couple of months are notification that several businesses at various times are going to want to either create, reestablish, or reaffirm the outdoor patios that that Caroline has, and perfectly legal. They got their approvals with the turnover of the La Piazza building. We had several questions from the new owner that, how do I guarantee that I can reestablish this? We've tried to reassure him, and apparently we did enough that he bought the building anyway, because he does not have a restaurant identified yet, but as part of his marketing of that restaurant, he wants to be able to tell them that they can reuse that area. He can't do that because you, as the legislature, can't approve that until they have a restaurant in place. So it's kind of a chicken and egg, which one comes first. Now, in addition to that, we know that Heron's Meat Market has asked about doing one. Not sure what their timing is. Bakehouse Bread has also been asking about one, and each one of those would require, and I think there's at least one more. The Masonic Building just sold, and there's been some interest in doing the same there. I think that's all of them. There's been general interest, but there are several. Outdoor dining is apparently very popular and has come up frequently now. And so in an effort to streamline the process, we do not want to change the process, but as long as we follow this set of guidelines, we want to be able to turn that around for the businesses a lot quicker by doing it administratively. And Mr. Kerber provided basically all of the input on this. He vetted this very closely to make sure that it complied with the the right-of-way concerns that he had. Our insurance agency, Maverma, they have given us the most recent language on insurance, which has always been required, and the company or the businesses would have to provide us an insurance certificate every year to make sure that they're covered and we're indemnified. We have created, you'll see that in a couple of places, 5 feet has become 6 feet. That is not to be overly restrictive. That is not impacting anybody and what they have done in the past and what they want to do in the future. It just, some places it was 5 feet, some places it was 6. We made it consistent with 6. And again, there's nowhere that they can't, there are very few areas that they can't even do 5, let alone 6. So we're not restricting anybody that wants to do anything out there. Trying to think if there's any. We took the opportunity at the same time to update the easel board and the seating enclosures. We have some colors. We don't have green anymore, so we made that blue in case somebody really wanted to jump on board with the new color scheme. but little things like that is what we wanted to do. So that is all this is. Most of the red that you see are insurance-related items.
With regard to the 6-foot setback or minimum unobstructed walkway, are any of the folks that currently have outdoor dining facilities or fence lines or anything else that are on the sidewalk, is that going to affect any of them?
No, not at all. We walked downtown, we wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to be too restrictive, and it's not.
And any of the potentials that you've spoken about, that's not going to impact them?
No.
Okay. Why in section 717.04, number D, the add-on of displays of merchandise, why would we want to get involved with approving what type of merchandise is out there?
Doesn't matter what they're doing, okay? They are using our right-of-way. And so without any kind of approval, then, approvals and insurance requirements, then we could share liability.
So with, we're not approving, or we're not setting up, you can't put this type of merchandise, or you can't put that.
This is not a free speech issue. This is just a location issue.
Okay.
And a safety issue, those kind of things. If somebody wants to put a 10-foot tall display, we might not want to have that out there because all of these have to be displayed within no further away from the building than 4 feet. So they're going to be on the building side of the brick pavers.
Correct.
Yeah.
The reason I bring this up is the word merchandise. If we're talking about display racks or some physical thing, not the objects themselves, that is for sale. It's the way they're being displayed in a safe manner.
Right.
That's what my confusion was with that, and I don't.
Yeah, and every time we have one of these requests that comes through, it's typically on a table that they just want to put out during a festival or an event like a Final Friday or First Friday, and they're typically small displays. So the manner in how they're displayed, it may be racks just because that's how the merchandise has to be stored, but it's typically too much work because these are temporary displays.
Right.
Too much work to do all of that and be that elaborate with it.
So would a permitting process to allow X amount of days or something on a quarterly, annually basis or something like that, with an outline of what would be able to be displayed, not displayed, and that sort of thing, would that make it a cleaner, simpler process?
I think that might become too cumbersome for the businesses, as well as there'd be an administrative burden on kind of track and keep track of how many times they put it out, because honestly, we try not to be too rigorous in our enforcement on this unless somebody is, doing it week in and week out, and this gives us the flexibility to say, wait a minute, you've been out there quite a bit. Now, with Troy Main Street, we're very good partners with them. They self-police a lot, and we're always talking back and forth, particularly when it comes to a coordinated display or coordinated event that the downtown merchants want to put on. So we didn't want to get too detailed on this. It gives us flexibility to the downtown.
And moving along into the awnings and canopies under section 717.08, those are going to fall more under the zoning or sign code and zoning code? They've always been, this is not anything new. It was just, that was never updated. The sign code is where they fall if they've got a sign on them.
The planning commission, as far as it being an awning and having signage, they always have an architectural review anyway in the downtown. But that's just old language that were updated that was never updated when the sign code was taken out of the zoning code 10, 15 years ago.
Either of you, Mr. Sean, go ahead.
Back to the awnings, as I look at both La Piazza and the Caroline, my guess would be is that their awnings extend more than 5 feet from the building.
I don't believe so. But
Because
they're not considered, for these purposes, a standalone awning or canopy. They're part of the enclosure, okay? So they're anchored by the posts, and they're part of the fencing, and they're part of the outdoor patio.
Okay, so that's considered part of the building.
We would look at that as like the whole unit.
Okay.
This is where you might have just standalone canopy that extends into the right-of-way, and there's probably the only support that they've got is on the building itself.
So that would be like the Salem building. They had an awning that, of course, blew off here recently, but
That would be one.
That would cover it.
Basil's has an awning. I mean,
Yeah.
there's several places.
Okay.
The satellite dish company has one.
okay.
Yeah.
Listening.
Just really quickly in 717.07 about these permanent or seasonal seating enclosures. They're called enclosures, but when they are seasonal, are you saying that's just someone that wants to put out tables and chairs for the warmer weather season that isn't going to have, like what you mentioned with an enclosure?
It could be both.
Okay, so they...
I mean, even if it's a permanent enclosure, it's seasonal because who wants to
Right.
sit out,
But I'm just saying that you're calling it an enclosure, but they're not, somebody who's doing that seasonally isn't going to have to put any kind of barricade around it. They could just put out tables and chairs within the space.
Yes,
Okay,
right. I mean, we have a couple of businesses that do that now.
that's what I thought. So even though we're calling it an enclosure, it's just the space that they can use in front of their business. And then just in F, I would point out to you that you want to change that of to an or, permanent or seasonal seating enclosures. That's the only. Just having to
mine-
get in my editing.
Where are you?
717.07F,
Oh,
the
F,
added
F, got it.
sentence, just has of instead of or,
Oh, I see.
of the
Thank you.
permanent or seasonal
We'll make that
seating
update.
enclosures.
See
That's
it?
my only question, thank you.
Any other persons in the audience have questions on this item? All right, seeing none, what is your pleasure with this?
We are not asking for emergency on this one.
Move forward. It's unanimous with the committee to move forward as staff is recommending on this item.
Okay.
And the second item that we did have on our agenda for the evening, Mr. Titterington, you're saying that we're pulling that at the moment?
We received a signed easement today. Just as a quick explanation, this is one of those cases where it was they were out of state on the West Coast, I believe. There may have been some change through a will or estates, and we just couldn't get any answer from them. And so appropriation is the only way to do it. And it was only related to a temporary easement, so we weren't concerned about getting the appropriation, knowing that we'd be restoring it after the project.
Got it. All right, thank you. Any other items to come before the Streets and Sidewalks Committee?
No, sir.
All right, then we are adjourned. Thank you.